he was very confrontational when I gave him the gift at this horror convention. And he told the entire line waiting that they could wait because they needed to hear the truth of how Christianity is just a load of crap. And he was like, I've been to the Ark Encounter. I've been to the Museum of the Bible. They're comedy clubs. They make no sense. They're just a joke. I mean, he was just very brutal.
What's been your, not that we like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, these are a lot of really good stories, but sometimes it doesn't always go great. I want the audience to know, like when we evangelize, not to scare anybody, but sometimes it doesn't always go good.
Rainbow, sunshines, and butterflies.
Yeah.
Right?
And so maybe you tried to share the gospel with someone watching this and it didn't go well. And you're like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Just to let you know, Dylan, myself, of course, I've had some bad encounters at times. It's rare, but it does happen. And so maybe what's an encounter that was not so great with a celebrity? Maybe how they responded or how they reacted or whatever.
Immediately, Doug Bradley from the movie Hellraiser. He played the terrifying Pinhead character.
Oh, okay.
He calls himself an evangelical atheist, which is a very interesting term, spreading the message of hopelessness and nothingness. He was very confrontational when I gave him the gift at this horror convention, and he told the entire line waiting that they could wait because they needed to hear the truth of how Christianity is just a load of crap. And he was like, I've been to the Ark Encounter. I've been to the Museum of the Bible. They're comedy clubs. They make no sense. They're just a joke. I mean, he was just very brutal.
Okay.
And but I will say this: he was respectful and said, "You listen to me. I will now listen to you." So I will give him that. That was a very kind, respectful thing that he didn't have to do.
Yeah.
And so, like I think I told you this yesterday. I didn't want to become that street preacher that everybody's like, oh my goodness, this guy shut up, because they've been already standing there for 30 minutes. But I'm like, I have this platform, I have this opportunity. Right. Lord, just give me the words to say, help me nutshell this. Yeah. So I think I maybe for 5-7 minutes shared the gospel, debunked some of the things he had said. And he was very polite. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't argue. And he said, well, I'll take your gift. Is your information in here? I said, it is. He said, if I ever change my mind, I'll give you a call, but don't wait by the phone. And I said, fair enough. Took a photo with him, and I'm walking away. My nerves were completely shot because I was like, well, that did not go how I was praying it would go. And of course, there's just that humanly side where we're like, why?
Yeah, we're discouraged. And
why, Lord? And this guy comes to me out of the line, and he says, hey, can I ask you a question? And I thought he was going to get mad. Just the way he approached me. And I said, sure. And he said, that Lee Strobel guy that you were talking about, do you have any more of his stuff? I said, yeah, I always carry extra stuff with me. And so I gave it to him, and I said, is there something you wanted to talk about? And he goes, no. I just wanted to have this. What's your social media handle? I said, Celebrity Evangelist. And he goes, oh, that's easy to remember, easy to find. A little over a month later, I got a message on Instagram because I check all my messages, and it was that guy, and he said, I just wanted to let you know, when I was standing there in line, I was an atheist. I believed the same thing as Doug, and I was like, yeah, you tell him, put this Christian in his place. Some of the things you said made me start to go, well, that does make sense. Yeah. Well, if that makes sense, I wonder if this would make sense. And he said, it just opened up my mind to, what if there's something I've missed? I should probably look into this more. And he had started going to this church in Charlotte, and he said, I just wanted to let you know I gave my life to Christ.
Wow.
Last time I messaged him, I haven't messaged him in a long time, but he was a worship leader at that church. And I was like, man, that is just incredible. And
that is incredible.
Of course, on one hand, somebody listening, somebody watching might say, well, that wasn't a bad encounter. That was great.
Yeah.
Sometimes the person we think that we're there to talk to is not who we're there to talk to.
Yeah.
Because the audience goes past just who you're looking at. The audience is whoever's around, whoever's catching whoever's listening. One of the most powerful stories I've ever heard. This preacher just recently came to our church, and he shared this story about this guy who completely acted in faith. He set up for this giant tent revival and was prepared for hundreds of people. Nobody showed up. And he said, well, we're still going to preach. And his son was like, why are we going to preach? There's no one here. Right. And he said, because I'm doing what God told me to do.
Walking by faith.
And he preached in the pouring rain. And his son sat in the car like, Dad's crazy. And then his dad got back in the car,
Preached to an empty audience.
empty audience. And I'm sitting there going, I wouldn't have done that. I'd have been like, I'd have counted my losses and been like, this is terrible.
Like maybe it wasn't meant to be.
So his son asked him when he gets in the car and says, well, are you happy now? And he said, well, I did what God told me to do, so yes. And he said it was just whatever. Fast forward a few months, the pastor was in the hospital. He was doing really bad. He couldn't really talk anymore. And this young man walked into the hospital room and he was just crying. And he said, God used you to save my life. This young man was going to commit suicide. And he was walking to where he was going to
Do that.
And it started raining, and he said, well, I don't want to do that in the rain, which I'm like, okay. And so he stood under a tree, and he could hear every bit of the message. And he said, I thought, if
Oh my goodness.
this message is so powerful for this man to stand out here in the rain and preach to nobody, maybe it's powerful enough to save me. So
goodness.
that was just a...
And the pastor didn't even see him or anything?
No,
Or like
nobody
notice?
saw him because it was just that downpour
yeah,
rain.
right.
And he
Just
said, I
that
didn't even
is-
know where the tent was. He said, I just found
What a
out later
powerful
who
story.
it was because I could hear the speakers.
What a powerful story.
And so, like I said, somebody watching this may be like, well, these are amazing stories. We don't always know this side of heaven.
Exactly.
I mean, that pastor could have easily passed away never knowing, hey,
Yep.
that message was for that one young man.
Yep.
But God allowed him to say, because of your faithfulness, here is the fruit.
Yep.
You planted the seed, here it is.
Amen.
And we have to remember, like you were saying, we don't always see instant results.
Yep.
We don't always instantly see somebody give their life to Christ. We should never push for that. We should never make somebody just say something out of peer pressure.
Yep.
But we have to be the messenger. We have to be the one to say, here's the
Amen.
information. It's now in your hands.
Yep.
And I'm here. And we just need to be that open door for somebody to know if I need to talk to somebody, if I want to talk to somebody, that's who I can go to.
It's a great lesson about walking by faith, not by sight.
Absolutely.
Because you walk by sight, you won't do evangelism probably
No,
most of the
you
or
won't.
any kind of thing for the kingdom. But we walk by faith and obey the Lord. Lord, maybe this doesn't make sense. I don't feel like it. All these excuses that come in our head. But you told me, you say jump, I say how high, Lord, right? You're my commander in chief, and I'm going to obey you. And you'll see what God does. And if you're faithful in little things, then God will take you to greater things. But if you
Absolutely.
say, oh, I got to preach in the rain, and just the example, and I don't want to do this, but God's telling you to do it, go preach in the rain.